Hello, Anne Marie. Welcome. Well, right now you're it. Hello, everyone. No. Oh, somebody else came in. Hope you're doing okay. Hello, Rachel. Thank you for the like. Please leave a like to support the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. So this is number 284. And actually, I've done more than that because I did do a number of live streams I call Taco Talk. And they're in with my playlist, but I had them separately numbered. So I'm well over 300 when it comes to live streams, but since I've been just using the term Taco Talk or coffee talk, I can't keep it straight. I have been straightening up, and I've been moving stuff. I got a new table that the wife assembled for me. Got rid of a couple of smaller tables that I had next to my roll top. I like it, and it's got more room up top. And I got rid of a file cabinet. I'm in the process of getting rid of a file cabinet, and I put it in my hutch that I got space for files. So yeah, I've been working on it. Hello, Joseph Moore. And I actually thought I might be late this evening. So I had done a community wall post, about 45 minutes ago, stating that I would live stream this evening, but I might be late because I had to go down to pick up supper. I went down to local pizza place called Domino's, and I picked up it's an Italian marinara. Sort of like a pasta. So I got a notification that thunderstorms are coming in from Edna, so it should really have a downpour tonight. I got all my stuff out for the garbage man tomorrow, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. Yeah. Domino's runs a manager special, which is a 2-topping large pizza and cheesy bread for like $15.99. Sometimes I get that. Normally, hello Mancy. Normally when I get something like that, it's pepperoni and sausage, or pepperoni and mushrooms, pepperoni and something. But pepperoni. And I've got other stories I can tell today. I can moan you a story. So I'm still trying to get straightened out from closing my main account down. I still have about 4 different, actually a couple more than that, but I'm gonna let the kid take care of like the Netflix and the Hulu and everything. I'll let her take care of that. But I still have 4 different accounts that I need to deal with and transfer over, and it'll take a good chunk of time tomorrow. They're not open on the weekend, so I wasn't able to deal with them. The Black Widow should have her box tomorrow. I was told that it was expected Monday, so she should have her box. I released a video long-winded, of course. And hello, little lone prepper. I released her video. It's about 16 minutes, a good chunk of it, and I could call it a bloopers because I didn't edit it. I just ran it. And here she is. So, Black Widow, your ears should be ringing because I've been talking about you. KP Heathen, hello Heathen. I was saying you should get your box delivered tomorrow if they're on time. So, I had a frustrating afternoon when it comes to certain things. I went over to T-Mobile to get my wife's phone transferred over from Optimum. And she's the last one that I need to transfer over. Hello, Dave. Now, let me ask for some clarification, Dave. Where exactly is this hurricane coming in? Because if it's coming in Florida, and it's got to cross a good chunk of mileage from the sea to where you're at, it's going to be significantly diminished. Now, you're still going to get some wind, and you're still going to get a hell of a lot of rain, but it won't be the impact of, let's say, a 75, 80 mile an hour hurricane hits the coast and you're 50, 60 miles inland. It'll be slowed way down by the time it gets to you. But I'm not taking anything away from it. You will have some fun. And oh, my friend Jocelyn. And everybody congratulate Dave. He and his fiance have been together for a year. Hello, Bud Files. But I went over, and they wanted to argue with me. Not T-Mobile, but Optimum. We can't release the number because you have to have the account for blah blah. Well, wait a second. Now I've had the account for 18 months. There was no contract. The device is paid for. And they're just being difficult. Had to talk to 3 different, and actually I let my daughter and the lady from T-Mobile deal with most of it. And then they want to verify that I'm there. Had to verify myself like about 3 or 4 times. Well, let's see. Hello, Holly. I pray for you that it is not bad and that you do not have any power outages or anything. I'm afraid that what's going to happen is you're going to have some trees that they haven't trimmed. Limbs break, they're going to fall on wires, and you're going to have power outages due to some of your larger trees hitting transformers or hitting your distribution wires. Wayne, the ungrateful peasant, welcome. So hopefully, um, windows are rated for a certain. If the winds are 70, 80 miles an hour, you shouldn't have any problems with them breaking your windows. Now, if something hits your window, that's different. But I don't think the wind is going to break your windows at that strength. Hopefully not. 10 in the house, 10 likes. Last night was a good night. I had over 300 views, 302 views during the course of the live stream. I'm at 1,675 subs. I got 25 to go before the next giveaway, and I don't think I'm going to make it by the day I go back to work, which is the day after tomorrow. Now, I might, between now and then, get another 5, 6, 7. So I may be in the 80s, maybe 1,680, 1,682, somewhere along in there. I don't think I'm going to get 25 channels signing up for me in the next 48 hours, say. But we's close. We's close. 16K views, a little lower than I've, 401 watch hours. I'm slowly creeping back up on the watch hours. And everybody's greeting everybody. For those of you who just came in, Dave and Echo, living my best life at 60, and Yoda Papa Cards, Papa Vintage Papa Cards, Yoda, are a couple. They've been together, and I introduced them. So I'm the fairy godfather that introduced them. I like to laugh about and joke about that and do the little. Anyway, they're a cute couple, and they're very good people. Got a YouTube notification. Watch live now. David Lynn, Prepper Principal, Coffee Talk. I'm looking at the so I get notifications of people making comments and various things. Talking a little bit about preparedness. When you have an issue, something happens, your options are to stay where you're at, your home, your apartment, your trailer, wherever you live, you're out on the farm, or to leave and go someplace else. They call that bugging out. If you stay where you're at, it's called bugging in. I didn't create the terms. I'm just letting you know what they call them. Hello, Becoming Dangerous. Wayne's second channel. So, some people, they want to leave if they say, oh, it's going to rain. And they freak out. And when the hurricane that came in up around Houston and Galveston, when that Burl came in, there were a bunch of people who left thinking it was going to come in here. And I can remember the next morning, going over to my favorite taco place, getting tacos, and across the street, on the other side of the street, these people pulled into a house, and they started pulling out bags and, had kids with them, They started putting, obviously they had left. But they didn't go that far because they were able to get back the following day. And it did not come in here, and we did get a little rain from it. We did get some rain from it. It changed our weather patterns a little bit. But, mom of 4 boys. And Uncle Al. Dagnabbit, you've already been here. Die Bullfrog. 79. Uncle Al's a classic. So I have been going through the pain of contacting a whole list of different accounts that I have to change over my payments, automatic payments. You know, if you have rent and I don't have rent, if you have rent, you've got rent. You got to change that over. If you're renting and you've got insurance, it's a separate insurance. You got to change that over. Well, I'm not. But like my city handles the water and trash pickup. That's a bill. Water, trash, sewage. It's a bill. Electricity is a bill. I don't have gas. If I had gas, that'd be another bill. Automotive insurance, home insurance, different companies. My phone service, my internet service, my insurance for health, my wife's insurance, different policies. My automatic direct deposits. Got a couple of different, got direct deposit for a couple of things to come in. Got to contact them. Amazon Prime. I got that one taken care of. I'm going to let the kid take care of Hulu and Netflix. Hillbilly Josh. Hello, Hillbilly Josh. How you doing? Thank you for like number 12. 12 in the house. So I will tell you, I will be doing a 1,700 subscriber giveaway when I get to 1,700. I think Dave said he's going to do a 1,500 when he hits 1,500. But it needs to stay at 1,500 for 48 hours. It can't jump up over and then it goes down. Because I have that happen sometimes overnight. You know, I have that happen sometimes. Where I hit a number and then all of a sudden the next morning I'm a couple lower for whatever reason. Dave would say, the purge is real. Well, Lord, protect me from the purge. So to qualify for my 1,700 subscriber giveaway, you need to leave me a like and a supportive comment on each of the last 5 videos I have released, or I will have released when I hit 1,700. Now, that's not shorts, that's not wall posts, and that's not live streams. That's actual videos. The last video I released was Black Widow's Goodie Box. And if I don't do any more, then when I hit 1,700, I take Black Widow's Goodie Box. I write down the names of all the channels that left a comment on that video, and then I start backtracking 4 channels. Go to the next one. Either a check or cross off. Check or cross off for 5. Now, I'm sad to say, and I'm embarrassed to say, only 9 channels qualified for that 1,600 subscriber giveaway. Only 9. Now, when I did the 1,500 and I did the 1,400 before that, and I did those relatively close together, I had over 40 channels qualify for each of those drawings. Over 40 channels. So I have been slipping and they have been slipping. And these are nice boxes. WD Glock and Roll and Michaela Missick, welcome. You can eat well for $100 a week. Yes, you can. You certainly can, Wayne. I've done some videos, and I've done some where I talk about eating on practically nothing. I mean, you know, eating stuff that, like a couple of packs of oatmeal, the instant oatmeal, or a couple of packs of the instant multi-meal, that and a cup of coffee for breakfast. You know, ramen and crackers, or these little bowls, soup bowls. Some of them are spicy, and crackers. Very inexpensive. Big meal, and I'm saying eating when you're not doing major league cooking. And by major league cooking is where you're getting a lot of stuff dirty, because you're doing vegetables, and you're doing a meat, and you're doing vegetables, and you're doing various, you know, like eating a Hormel complete meal, or a Dingy Moore, or eating a pouch that you can microwave for a couple of dollars, like a chili pouch, 8-ounce chili pouch, or beans or rice, or combinations of that. And you know, there are people who hunt, and they you know, they get a deer, and they dress it out and, you know, put it in the freezer. Or they go and they kill a wild hog or javelina or whatever, and they dress it out and they put it in the freezer. And there are people who purchase like a quarter. They might go in with some other people and they purchase a quarter of a cow. Because, you know, a whole cow, that's, you know, that's, But a quarter is doable, in my opinion. And also, you know, it won't go to waste. You won't get freezer burn because it's been sitting in there for 3 or 4 years, you know, in the freezer. You'll get through it. Yep. Sounds right. Sounds right. Heck, you know, buy a meal for 2 people out, it's $30 for one meal. when I get these Mexican plates, and if I get a little bit of queso and other in a drink, it's $30. You know, if I just get the 2 plates, it's like $20, $21. You know, and there's a place I like to go. If you go before 8 o'clock in the morning, the tacos, which are really nice tacos, are $2 a piece. So sometimes I go early. I'll get my wife a plate, and then I get a couple of tacos. Yeah, rice cooker. And I've got one that's 12 volt. I've got a regular one. I've got a 12 volt one that I can use for, you know, rice, beans, whatever. 12 volt appliances are really good because, like, I've got a 12 volt kettle to heat water. 12 volt appliances use less than 100 watts. So, like, when I'm using a compressor driven 12 volt refrigerator freezer, and I usually would just use it on refrigerator, when the thing's running, it's running at less than 50 watts, and it cycles. So it runs for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's off for 20 minutes. So you're not actually, you know, if you're running, say, 50 watts, and you run that for 1 hour, you basically depleted 50 watts from whatever's, you know, setup you got. You want to have deep enough batteries that if you're running, say you're running overnight, you got different stuff running. Let's say you're running and you run 700 or 800 watts, full watts, you know, overnight for your, you know, for whatever. You want enough battery capacity that gets you through the night and not damaging your batteries. And if you're using lithium batteries, you're not going to damage them by draining them down. Whereas if you're doing deep cycle, you don't want to drain, you know, AGM deep cycles, you do not want to drain them more than 50%. And those are, hello, wheelchair girl. Thank you for coming. But you don't want to be in a situation where you don't have enough power. I don't like this angle. Good Lord, I look like I'm pregnant. This is what you call granddad bod, but I'm not a grandfather yet. This is granddad Bob. Granddad Bob. Bod. B-O-D. So you need to have enough supplies for whoever's with you. Now, here's a scenario for you. Family of 4, and you got supplies for a family of 4 for a year. Something happens, and you take in an additional 2, 3, 4 people, relatives. Maybe they're the in-laws. Maybe your kid gets married. So that 1 year supply just went down to 6 months supply. So you need to take into consideration what are you prepping for, and you've got to have capacity and depth to handle, you know, newcomers. And the other thing is, either they better be blood relatives very close to you, you know, or they better really bring something to the table. You know, I'm sorry. But in a situation where it's survival, you really need to take in consideration what you're doing, who you're doing it with. Um, they need to have some skills, or they need to bring something to the table. And you're also not running a geriatrics ward. And I know that sounds mean, but I mean, life and death situation. It's you, your wife, you got two little kids. You can't take in the block. You can't take in everybody on the block. The old idea of the smokehouse. My father used to talk about the smokehouse, that they had a smokehouse back in the day. My father was born in 1913, well over 100 years ago. And they didn't have a lot of the conveniences that we have now. He grew up, they had lanterns. They had an outhouse. They had a smokehouse. He came from Georgia. He had a mammy. He used to talk about his mammy. He had a babysitter, or basically a wet nurse like mammy. And they had a cook. They had people that lived on the property, and like back in the old days. This is in Georgia. This is in rural Georgia. They farmed and they ranched. Mike Crusher Reviews. Hello, Mike. I mean, at one time, things were not very good. Um, I grew up on stories of various things from, family. My father's boyhood friend. My father's name was William Clark. William Clark. His boyhood friend's name was Will Allen. William Allen. I was a little kid, and I used to call him Uncle Willie. I thought he was my uncle. It's my father's boyhood friend. They were about the same age. They grew up together. Dad was white. William was black. Will Allen was black. They were best friends, best buds. When my father got into a position of leadership where he had supervisory, he hired him. He brought him. He had him come out from Georgia, and he hired him, gave him a job. When my father moved up, he made his friend a foreman. He was a foreman. This would have been back in like the 60s. This would have been back in the late 50s, early 60s. And he gave me, I remember vague memories. I would have been 6 or 7 years old. I remember him giving me my first wallet. Had a few dollar bills in it. Used to call him Uncle Will. I truly believed he was my uncle. Loved that man. And he was a victim of violence. They found him, by the railroad tracks with 2 bullets in his head, and they declared it a suicide. 2 bullets. Got shot twice in the head. Declared it a suicide. Yeah, right. That was back in the 60s. Almost killed my father. First time I'd ever seen a dead person. My mother took me. It was a rainy night. Mom took me. It was a dark, rainy night. Took me to the funeral home, and I think it was a black funeral home because it was on the north side over there. And scared. They had him dressed out, looked nice, and scared the hell out of me. I started having nightmares about it. Probably too young for that kind of stuff. Idaho Garden Girl, welcome. There's a story to what happened. Um, he had a young lady girlfriend he took care of. Apparently, he came in and he found her with another guy. And a crime of passion, he shot and killed both of them. And he didn't turn himself in. And a few days later, they found him. And he had two gunshot wounds to his head. Back in the 60s. And they could claim all sorts of stuff back then. But that really, oh, Holly, that was 55 years ago when I was a little boy, you know, I was 6 or 7 years old. And yeah, it was very, what was really, I had several traumatic things happen to me because everybody was old because I was born late in life. My father died at the age of 64. I was 14 years old. He had a brain tumor. They didn't find it until it was advanced. They did surgery on him. He didn't wake up from the table. That was very traumatic. So back in the day when I'd have a headache, and I used to get I really don't get headaches now, but back in the day when I was a lot younger, I'd get a headache, and I thought, well, do I have a brain tumor? Because before they found it, before he passed on, he had a lot of bad headaches. They finally found out what was wrong with him. It's too late. So that was very traumatic. I went through counseling over that. But again, we're talking about stuff that happened almost 50 years ago, you know. And I've since, a long time ago, adjusted to it. I lost my mother when I was past 40, and she was just shy of 82. That was very traumatic. I was very close to my mother. My mother lived with me until, and I'm an only child, until she was 80, and then I put her in a retirement home. Couldn't take care of her. You know, I was married, little kid, you know, and the wife. So put her in a real nice retirement home. Uh, yeah, yeah. Um, I have, I used to have a lot of law enforcement in my family, and I would hear stories about corrupt cops and what they do. It used to be they would kill somebody, and then they would have a weapon that they called a throwdown, and it was a unregistered or they a clean gun. They'd throw it down and say, well, they had a gun, you know, or they would put something in their vehicle to justify, what would happen. They'd put some stuff in there that would be stolen or illegal or whatever. It used to be real notorious up in Houston, Texas. They had real big problems with that way, way back, long, long time ago, you know. But, it's like, and I really don't want to get into politics, and Uncle Al will get on to me about politics or whatever. But, you know, when something happens, you get everybody just about in that party. They all close ranks, circle the wagons to defend the person. And it really doesn't matter which party it is. That's the way things go. They protect their own. You know, it's like saying people protect their own. And I've seen on news and various things where you have some horrible criminal who gets convicted of murder and killed two or three people or did something absolutely heinous, and then the guy's family's there, and they're all crying, and just, oh, he's such a, Baba he's such a good boy, and all this crap, you know. And it's like, well, if he was that good a person, he wouldn't have went out and mass murdered all these people or killed all these people. Look at, you got this 20-year-old kid who was, had something wrong with him, that they're saying, was the one they shot, that, Secret Service shot him after he killed somebody and seriously injured a couple other people and hit the president in the ear. Stuff is coming out about that there might have been some other people involved. There might have been somebody motivating the situation, sort of like JFK back in the day. There was more than just Harvey Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald. There was more to it than just him by himself. And it's starting to look like there might have been something other conspiratorial, with Trump. So we're in hurricane season, and we're going to be in hurricane season until November. And we're not, it's still not the hottest month of the summer. I mean, August, we're just coming into August. August is hotter than July. So the atmospherics and all the, the Gulf Stream, the slipstream, the air flow and all this stuff, the patterns are adjusting. You get a storm come up through, and it screws everything up for a couple of weeks. It screws up all your normal patterns for a couple of weeks. And also, we're at the state in our technology where we can monitor the sun, and the sun operates in cycles. So you got more output and you got less output, and it cycles. It's like an 11-year cycle. The sun cycles up, cycles down. So you've got what they call solar maximums and solar minimums, and it basically comes down to the output of the sun. At a maximum, the sun's putting out 110%. At a minimum, it's putting out less. And they're what they call like CMEs, coronal mass ejections. And it's like those holes. They have like those sunspots, those holes. And you get a blast, and it sends out solar radiation, solar stream. It takes a while to get here, and it blasts out in all directions. So a lot of times you got blasts and they don't hit the earth, or they partially hit the earth. You don't really get a straight on hit. And they had an incident that happened 175 years ago or so, right when we were starting to really get into our technology. It was called the Carrington. It was a Carrington incident. Carrington. And it melted down a lot of telegraph lines, and a lot of the early technology, jacked a lot of that stuff up. You had you could see the solar borealis, the northern lights, way down south, as opposed to just up north. They talk about climate change. Used to talk about global warming. And then they didn't have they started finding out a lot of stuff that like, question that, because of the way things are in the cycles and everything. Because they can look at tree rings to tell you about a lot of stuff, and they can look at evidence from way back when, and they can tell you a lot, So instead of global warming. Now it's climate change. But the thing is, when you start talking about climate change, you start using the term climate change. There's always been climate change from the very beginning. From the beginning that they had a climate, it's constantly changing and circulating, and it's just like as we circle the sun. We have seasons. We got winter. We got spring. We got summer. We got fall. We got the seasons. And things that affect it. Volcanoes, eruptions. There are 4 volcanoes right now, supposedly, and I don't know all of them, but there are 4 volcanoes right now spewing out a lot of stuff up into the atmosphere, and that affects, because it goes up there, and it affects, goes up and super way high up. It doesn't come down immediately, so that stuff affects the sun. It affects the amount of solar energy we're getting. And it can cool things off. Cools things off. That's something, that. The other thing that's going on right now that you hear about is you've got magnetic poles. The North Pole, the South Pole. The poles are moving. You're in the process of a pole shift. Every so many thousand years, there's a pole shift, and it takes probably a couple hundred years for it to happen. And we're in the process getting ready for major poles. Poles are shifting. You've got the North Pole heading towards Siberia. You got the South Pole coming up from Antarctica, moving towards South America. Moving the poles. Another thing they talk about is, the North Pole, all the ice up there. Hello, Echo, living my best life at 60. My friend, Mr. Whistle, hello. Congratulations to you and Dave on a year. But, you've got ice melting up in the Arctic. And then in the Antarctic, you've got ice buildup. You're building up a lot of ice in Antarctica, down south. And you've got major ice melting in the North Pole, up north. But the amount of ice, is there a big difference in the amount of ice? That's sort of moving around. It's moving from, one place to another place. But you still got ice. So, you think about that kind of stuff. And it affects the weather. Weather patterns. Weather patterns, change over time. They say 8,000 years ago, about 8,000 years ago, the Sahara Desert was not a Sahara Desert. It was green. But over a period of time, it changed and it became a desert. Now that's climate change. Areas change. They're finding out a lot of stuff. They're finding out an awful lot of stuff. Something happened about 12,000 years ago. Something big came out of the sky, we were in an ice age, hit the North American ice sheet, and in a period of less than a year, sea levels rose over 200 feet. Global sea levels rose over 200 feet in less than a year. Brought us out of the ice age. Something big hit. So, anything along the coast, anything along the coast is way underwater now. And they found structures, they found structures underwater. Big blocks, stuff that's underwater that they think man-made stuff. And they've also found buried um, Gobekli Tepe and another. There's several of them. They've scanned from above, and they've uncovered a little bit of it. But you're talking big stone structures, 12,000 years old. And previously they said you wouldn't find anything like that. Maybe 6,000, a little over 6,000, about the oldest. But they found stuff with all sorts of, and they haven't excavated even a part of it in Turkey. So they're also saying, based on remains and such that they're finding, they have reason to believe that people had technology or higher technology a lot further back than they thought. And they've had maps in our calendar. About 200 years ago, they discovered Antarctica. If you look at any of the maps, any of the sea maps or anything that was drawn, you didn't have Antarctica. And also the maps that they had that they were creating like 500 years ago or so, they didn't, they knew Europe. They had a pretty good thing on Africa. You go over to India, down around to China, and they had that part of the world, but you didn't have Americas. North America, South America. You didn't have Antarctica. And then they found, and actually, the Vikings, they were there a few hundred years before, but they left. And, wasn't that big a mapping deal or anything. And they didn't continue, going. But, with Columbus and with the follow-up, the conquistadors and various, the explorations, the Spanish and the Portuguese and the various, exploration, they got a good idea of the Americas. But they still did not have Antarctica. They didn't find out Antarctica until about 200 years ago. That's when they discovered Antarctica. But the thing is, there are maps. They had a map that's like 5,000 years old. They found a map on some sort of, wasn't paper, but it was on a pretty good map. And it showed the Americas, and it showed Antarctica. It had Antarctica. It's a map of the world. And it was way, way, way old. And they think that 5,000-year-old map was basically something that had been copied from something a lot older. So, I don't know. I'm just repeating stuff that I've read and stuff that I've seen and heard on television, on YouTube, and some of these people who are researchers and such. Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock, some of these, they've been talking about stuff and for years and years and years, and they've been called quacks. But then the evidence is starting to come out. So, I don't know. I don't know. But I find that stuff interesting. So there's evidence of, Noah's flood. There's a lot of talk, a lot of stuff, about Noah's flood, about the Great Flood, across a lot of civilizations. Enrique Trevino, welcome, my friend. Thank you for coming, and thank you for like number 20. If you have not left a like, please leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for that, Holly. Yeah, they had trade secrets, all right. I was watching Shogun, the new remake of it, on Hulu. They had the first season's like 10 episodes. There's going to be a season 2. And it talked about the Portuguese and the Spanish and how they divided up things, and the Portuguese were over in Japan and that part of the world. And then you had this ship out of Rotterdam, the Netherlands, of Protestants. And they had a crew from, Protestant crew. England's Protestant. And this pilot of the ship, who's an Englishman. And historically, there was a character, that's sort of based on history. He managed to acquire what they called a rudder, which was sort of like a map. Told you where to go and how to get there. And they wound up over there. And originally there were 5 ships. They sent out 5 ships together, a small little fleet. And somehow lost 4 of them. It was only 1 ship. And that one was in pretty bad shape, and they were starving, and a lot of people had already died. And, the crew was down from about 100 on a ship to like 10 or 11. They were in a bad way. But, yeah. The development of the compass, the development of certain technologies, which allowed them to, longitude, latitude, and that allowed them to map more accurately, cartography. But I'll write that one down. I gotta write that one down. Sheesh. I'm certainly going to look at that channel. I have to be careful when I talk about things from history. I upset people. I don't want to get anybody upset with me. For the first 1,000 years of Christianity in the church, Catholic priests were allowed to marry. And you can look it up. But a pope who was middle-aged pope, Middle Ages, a married priest, and most of the priests were the younger sons of nobility. The eldest son normally inherited the bulk. Another son, if he had a second son, would oftentimes go into the military. And a third son might go into the church. Marigold TV official, welcome. Let me look at your channel. Welcome, Marigold. You're now a standard moderator on my channel. So, the idea was you have a married priest, and the scriptures say a priest should have but one wife. If you look at the qualifications for various, like a deacon, a priest, a bishop, or whatever, it should be one wife. And the Pope said, well, I'll stop that. They won't be leaving stuff to their kids. So, passed a papal bull or whatever, stating that the priest cannot be married. And therefore, if a priest is not married officially or legally, and they have a child because they got a woman, the child's illegitimate, and an illegitimate child cannot. They can dispute that. You can't leave stuff to an illegitimate child born out of wedlock. So that was the thing that the church did about 1,000 years ago. The Catholic Church. That really one of the things that they did. They did several things down through history. And I offend a lot of Catholics when I talk about that, because I was raised a Catholic. Seven in the house, 8 in the house. So Dave's going to have a storm, mild, like a Category 1 hurricane. It's going to hit Florida and hit Georgia. There's going to be a lot of rain. There'll be some wind. They may have a power outage. He says he's prepared for it. I pray that he is. You get a power outage, you may have a water outage. Sanitation might not be working. You have to have alternate means of sanitation. You need to have a supply of your medication. Marigold TV official. .14 subscribers, 167 videos. I will be subscribing you. Hopefully you will subscribe me back. I'm on the road to 1,700. I was hoping to get it before I go back to work Tuesday, but I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm about 25 short. So I'll be doing another short. I got a marinara pasta from Domino's that I'll do a video on when my live stream ends in a few minutes. So if you want to qualify for my 1,700 subscriber giveaway, the way you do so is to leave me a like and a supportive comment on each of the last 5 videos I will have released when I hit that 1,700. The Black Widow should be getting her goodie box from me on tomorrow, and hers is the last video I did. So 11 in the house. Yeah, my I have two bachelor's degrees, and the first one was a double major. History was one of the majors, and I took about twice the number of classes as required for the degree. You have to have 24 hours history. That would be 8 classes, 3 hours a class. And I had like almost twice as much. I had like 39 hours of history classes. I had an extra 5 classes over what was required. Just enjoyed it. Back in the day, you did research. You were looking through bound periodicals. You were looking through microfiche. Like you want to look through newspapers or a lot of magazines were on microfiche at that time. And yeah, yeah. Well, another thing is a little bit of a climate change. They had a cold. They had the weather changed for about a century, and they had like a little cold spell. They called it like the little ice age. And they actually the Northmen, Vikings, Scandinavians, whatever you want to call them, they were in Iceland, and Iceland was really sort of green. And then they went over to Newfoundland, which is on North America, and they had settlements there for a period of time, for a couple of generations. And then the weather changed and it got really cold, really, 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 really cold, and they left. And so they actually knew of North America, but it sort of got lost in the whatever. And then it wasn't until Columbus, 1492, sailed the ocean blue and all that sort of mess. Maria Pinta, Santa Maria, and Italians sailing for Spain. Queen Isabel of Spain sponsored the, yeah. Right after they drove the last of the Moors, the Muslims, they hit Grenada and drove them out of, the peninsula. Oh, yeah. So, yep. And that's the way that was, and that's what happened. They didn't have the type of technology that we have today, by a long shot. But there's a lot of stuff, historical facts and non-historical facts, and then the way that they portray stuff. Yeah, badges and pins and all that sort of stuff. When I was a Weeblo, and we had the blue. Weeblo is in between the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. The Weeblos. I was a Weeblo before I was a Boy Scout. And you get those little pins. You had your little, you get the little earn pins. And then when you're in the Boy Scouts, you get to earn patches and that. Do. So every day when I get up, I thank God for the day. You don't know how your days are numbered. You don't know how many you have. When you don't wake up, you won't know it. Thank God for the day. I say the Lord's Prayer. I drink coffee and take my medication. I contemplate what's going to happen. What do I need to do? I've already got a list of stuff for tomorrow. Trying to get all the stuff changed over from my account. And you know, that type of crap, you know, can really mess with you, especially like if you're trying to change stuff over and something supposedly goes late, you know, because like you got certain bills are due and you don't, and then they want to like hit your credit rating. I don't like that. So life is good, but it is what it is. And I start work Tuesday. I'm still going to try to do my 7 p.m. live streams. I'm behind on everything. I apologize. I try to support those who support me as much as I can, given the parameters of, you know, getting up in the morning at 5 and being at work before 7, and then getting off around 4:30, coming home, resting a little bit, and then trying to do my hour live stream and then go to bed. Um, so everybody, please have a blessed day, and hopefully I'll see you back tomorrow for another edition of Coffee Talk. Bye bye.